So in this video, I thought I would show you my iPad setup for 2026. I've been getting a couple of questions on what iPad I'm using and what case I'm using. I decided to keep the iPad Pro M5 from last year because I feel like the performance is so good, especially for doing like creative tasks and video editing. This is what the iPad looks like. I love the color of this. It's the space black, and I'm also really happy with the size. I chose the 11-inch. And then for my case, I have the ESR Shift case. I feel like this case has really helped me stay as productive as possible because it is a keyboard case. So when you open it, it has a keyboard that you can also detach, which makes it super convenient. So I'll show you in this video how I use the case and the iPad. Overall, I really like the color of the case. It matches the space black iPad. I love that this case isn't very heavy. Even though it is a keyboard case, it is so lightweight. I also really like that this case has air guard corners, so that is gonna protect the iPad in case you drop it. All sides of the iPad are covered. I haven't had any damage to my iPad so far. But just to quickly show you guys my wallpaper, you have probably seen this before, but I still have this light pink aura wallpaper. I am just in love with this aesthetic, and I actually have a matching wallpaper for my iPhone. They look really cute together. I also really like that when you turn the iPad horizontally, the clock becomes really big. Other than that, I'm keeping it really minimalistic. And as you can see, the case is also really minimalistic because it doesn't have any thick edges. Even though it is really protective, it doesn't look bulky at all. If you couldn't tell by now, I'm really into this minimalistic look, and I feel like the case also is really minimalistic. And for my pencil, I do not have the Apple Pencil, but I do have this ESR stylus pen, and I really like that this case has a little pocket for it, so it is so easy to store it. Every time I'm not using a pencil, I want to put it away, I put it in the case because I can't count how many times I have lost iPad pencils because I just put them like on my desk or somewhere around my home, and then I forget where I put it. So I think this is so convenient. Also, of course, I gotta match the pencil with the pink theme. When you're using the iPad and want to put the pencil away, you can also of course put it on the top here of the case, and it has a little cutout made for the pencil. So I think that's really good. As you can tell, it is magnetic, so it doesn't fall off. That is basically the overview of my current iPad setup. But now I want to show you guys how I'm using my iPad Pro and why I love this case so much. First of all, I love using my iPad for drawing. That is one of the biggest reasons why I even have an iPad in the first place. And I think I have found the perfect angle for drawing, and that is a 20-degree angle. So I really like that this case, you can put it in landscape mode. Obviously, you can have it in landscape mode like this as well, around 75 degrees, but you can also tilt it down all the way to 20 degrees, and then you have a little extra support here, and that way you can really rest your hand on the iPad, and even if you press pretty hard on the iPad, it is not gonna move like at all. So I think that's good because it really minimizes errors when drawing. I think if you have your iPad without a case, it can move around a lot, which messes up your drawing, but with this, it's like a perfect angle. I think it's really comfortable for both your elbow and wrist. I think it's really important to find a position where you don't get wrist pain, especially because sometimes I take lecture notes and then I'll have my wrist in the same position for like 3 hours, but I do think this is a really comfortable angle. And then the next reason why I love having an iPad is because you can work in so many more positions than with your MacBook. I feel like with your MacBook, since the keyboard isn't detachable, it's a bit more inconvenient, especially for when I'm working from home. Sometimes I like to be really comfortable and just work from my couch right here. So what I'll do is I'll detach the keyboard from the iPad case. This part is super lightweight. I like wish you could feel it. So you can have this really comfortably on your legs and just continue writing or browsing or whatever you want to do. So I really like this because sometimes you don't want to sit and work at your desk all day, and I feel like this makes it possible to have your iPad at a really ergonomic angle. I also like to put my iPad at a tablet stand and then have the keyboard in a more ergonomic angle right in front of me. I think this is really good if you don't have your iPad too close up to your face, but keep the keyboard at a good distance. So as you can tell, the keyboard is still connected to the iPad with Bluetooth. Bluetooth range is over 32 feet. Probably don't have to worry about losing connection. When I open up my iPad in the morning, I really like that the keyboard is instantly connected to the iPad iPad. Once you have it connected, it is automatically going to reconnect every single time you open up your iPad. And I think this is a really nice touch. It has backlit keys that light up when you press the keyboard. It just makes it look very premium and obviously makes it easier to see when it's dark. And then because the keyboard is detachable, we can also put the iPad in portrait mode like this. So this is really perfect for like browsing. Whenever I'm doing some online shopping, I love having the iPad in portrait mode. And then same thing for scrolling Pinterest. I do this pretty much every morning, and I think I prefer scrolling Pinterest on my iPad over the iPhone, just because all the pictures obviously become so much bigger on the iPad and you just get more pictures in frame. That is also one way I use portrait mode. One thing I love with my iPad setup is the trackpad of this keyboard, because for example, when I'm scrolling Pinterest, I don't want any lag in my trackpad, and also I want to be able to scroll from anywhere on the trackpad, not only for example in the middle of the trackpad, but with this one I can scroll in the corner, bottom, like anywhere. That also means it's clickable from every single corner. I also like being able to easily zoom in and out, so same thing here, you can do that from like anywhere on the entire trackpad, which is really nice if you're zooming in on pictures or a website. It is really easy to do that. And then this actually has a shortcut that I'm using pretty much every day, and that is if you want to return to home from your app, you can just swipe with 3 fingers and it returns home. So that is a little hack. I think it might be hard to show the exact size of this trackpad, but hopefully this will give you an idea of how big the trackpad is. It's pretty much as big as the entire like back part of my iPhone 17 Pro Max if you exclude the camera bump. That is also really good because you know you don't have a tiny little trackpad. Something else I did for my iPad setup is I turned on tap to click. This can be done in your trackpad settings. You just go to general and then trackpad. So this is basically where you don't have to actually press down on the trackpad to click. You can likely just tap on the trackpad. If I want total quiet, there's no clicking sound when just tapping the trackpad. So I really like that you can set that up. And then something else I also adjusted is the tracking speed. I didn't realize you can actually adjust how fast or slow your mouse is moving. If you feel like it is moving a little too slow, you can actually adjust it up to level 10, which makes it super fast. A little too fast if you ask me, but if you like it slower, you can do all the way down to 1, which is gonna make it ultra slow. I have it at around 6 or 7. I also really like that I barely have to charge this case. The backlight actually turns off after some time if you're not using the keys, so that saves a lot of battery. You could also turn off the backlight, which would make the keyboard last like 160 days for the 11-inch iPad, which is honestly really good. Obviously it's draining more battery if you are using the backlight. So yeah, that is an update on my iPad setup. I'll have the keyboard case linked in the description, of course. By the way, for my home screen, it really hasn't changed a lot from last time you saw it, but this is like the main page. I really like this aesthetic. It makes me motivated. Some cute widgets, and then I made all the apps pink. And then I also have this page with some more widgets, the podcast widget and a reminders widget. And then we have this page with this really big widget, another photo widget, and a couple of apps. But that is pretty much it. I have kept my iPad really simple. Alright, but thank you so much for watching. Bye!